Well, it's the end of a long day of work. Finally sitting down to play, and I want to play Football Manager more than anything in the world. It just loaded up. Here we go. Who in the blue blazes am I supposed to play as? I have some good news. I have put together a list of the 5 best places to manage on Football Manager 22 outside of England, and then, of course, 5 inside of England, considering that is the most popular place to play, whether you're from there or not, in Football Manager. I've got 5 of each. Everybody's happy. First, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Zealand's Podcasts. You see, I don't do all of my talking on stream, which is also, of course, down in the description, and here I do a lot of talking on podcasts. 20 Good Minutes with Dr. Benji, the Zealand Podcast, where we hang out with the different editors on this channel and talk about, well, all the things that we're attempting to do. You would have heard about the skin and the Nugan region faces and all that stuff before on the Zealand Podcast. And then there's a history podcast that everybody loves, but I, for the life of me, can't record a second episode because it requires too many brain cells. But you might enjoy the first episode, and the second one's coming soon. I'm going to say it here so that I force myself to do it. It's very deft. Anyways, where do you want to play in Football Manager? Well, there's a lot of different criteria. Is it a fun team to manage? Is it a fun story to manage? And so this list is completely subjective. If you have other great ideas, feel free to throw them down in the comments. That's perfectly fine. You can peruse the comments if you don't like the ideas that I'm hearing. But I will say, all those brain cells I'm not using to record the history podcast were applied to putting this list together and give you a nice variety of options. Capiche? Capiche. So for our non-English 5, number 5, Lille. Now, Lille is a talented team. They won the French League last year, but a few important people that you may or may not have heard of signed for Paris Saint-Germain in the French League that are going to make the being Lille a little bit tougher. And if you pay attention to my streams, of course, I am managing Lille in the beta. I'm trying to pull this off. And right now, even though I'm an optimist, it doesn't quite look like we're going to be able to defend our title. So you could one-up me by defending their title, or just carry it forward into the future and try and retain that top spot in the French game long-term, because short-term's definitely difficult, but you do get a collection of talented young players. You get Jonathan David, you get Timothy Weah, and you get center back Sven Botman. But you also get like old dudes like Burak Yilmaz and Jose Font. So there's a little something for everybody. You have an impossible mountain to climb, but some young talent to try and pull it off in an incredibly memorable single season save if you can. Plus, people don't usually get to manage in France as much, so Lille would be a nice way to jump in and try and defend your title against the best team ever assembled, maybe. Number 4. Dinamo Zagreb. Dinamo Zagreb is a pure entertainment play. Now, somehow Sheriff Tiraspol knocked them out in the Champions League qualifying rounds, but this is a Champions League group stage level team. They have legit talent all across the board. They're playing in a league that's off the beaten path. So if you have never taken that step outside the top 5 leagues, grabbing a team that's got Mislav, Orsic, Petkovic, Livakovic in goal, I mean, these guys are good. Dinamo Zagreb is really good. They don't quite have the same youthful talent that they've had in years past, but this is as dominant a team in a single league as you're going to find outside of maybe PSG, which of course technically doesn't count because they didn't win the league last year. They've won the league every year but one since 2005. If you want to get off the beaten path, take over a team that's dominant, and push for Europe from a country that has a pretty good youth rating, you cannot do better than Dinamo Zagreb. And if you want that spice of life, that's why they're on this list. Number 3. Real Sociedad, or as they're known in the game, Real San Sebastian. If you don't get the real name fixed, that's who you're looking for. I'm always a big fan of teams like Atalanta that sneak their way into the upper echelon of European leagues without anybody paying attention. Real Sociedad is that, and at the making of this video with a match in hand, they're top of La Liga right now, and they deserve to be there. This is a team in 3 of the last 5 years that's finished in the top 6 in La Liga. They have talent they've accumulated over time. They don't have the brand name, but you are kind of like Lille, going to be able to put the pressure on the top of the league immediately from the time that you take the reins. But you're not completely jumping into the wilderness. You're grabbing Mikel Oyarzabal, who it becomes a regular Spanish national team player in every simulation I've ever done into the future. You have the mercurial Swede Alexander Isak. This is where he's been hanging out the last couple of years. You have Adnan Januzaj, and you have the ageless wonder Nacho Monreal. He's not, you hope he's an ageless wonder if you take on this save. If you want the history and the backstory, Real Sociedad is in the Basque Country. It's the same as Bilbao, except they're actually allowed to sign players from outside the Basque Country, but they still have that strong, powerful heritage, and they've had players like Griezmann, who is claimed by the Basque Country, right? I feel like I might have wandered into a hot button topic there, but look, I just watched the documentaries. They were also a founding member of La Liga in 1929, and so strong history roots. Number 2, RB Leipzig. Not only does this club have the incredibly fun fact of being named the Rasenballsport Leipzig, which makes about as much sense in German as it does in English. It means grass ball sport. They just needed to find a way to get the RB in there because they couldn't name them Red Bull. Anyways, that's not what you came here for, though. This is a team that was properly dismantled over the course of the last year. They lost Dayo Upamecano. They lost Ibrahima Konate. They lost Marcel Sabitzer. 2 of those to Bayern. They even lost Lazar Samardzic, who I used to put on Wonder Kid lists when I would make those videos. One of those is coming soon, by the way. Just waiting for the full game to drop, you know, so we can get you a nice, accurate list, you know. So excited. But this team finished second in the Bundesliga and got absolutely raided. They've also lost Timo Werner recently, right? They are not able to hang on to their talent, and you are trying to put a team back together, essentially. This is not going to be as easy of a save as maybe some of the other ones I've pointed out to you, because this team in real life has ended up mid-table early on in the season. But you do have Elaix Moriba, you do have Dominik Szoboszlai, you have Gvardiol, you have Dani Olmo, so you have young pieces, right? This is a young talent play, but at the same time, you are being brought in to pick up the pieces at RB Leipzig and try and finally challenge Bayern at the top of the table. Can you do it? And number 1, Barcelona. I thought about making this the joke club Beercelona, who I really like to rep. I'm not making them up. They are a Nottingham-based 5-a-side team called FC Beercelona. But in this case, we're talking about actual Barcelona because they lost Messi and they lost their swagger. It's showing in real life. And not to mention they're in debt, so they can't do anything about it. The only good thing that seems to be going Barcelona's way is that Pedri has been great, but he also played 300 games last year. Ansu Fati coming back from injury when you kick off the start of this game. You have no idea how that's going to play out, and you're in charge of one of the biggest clubs in the world. This is not going to be easy, even if you have Memphis Depay. And not only are you contending with that, you're contending with disgruntled fans, a frustrated board, and you're coming off the worst league finish since the 2007-2008 season last year. Good luck. You're going to probably need it on this one, but it is going to be a fun save that a lot of people are going to take on, considering how much the difficulty level's been turned up on it. And it's a major club that normally, if you pick to manage, you'd be like, well, you're taking the easy road. Well, now you're not quite taking the easy road. Getting Barcelona back to the top would be an honorable achievement in Football Manager 22, so feel free to take it on. While you do that, though, we're taking a field trip north, and we're going to get cold. We're going to England for the top 5 English saves to do. Number 5, Sunderland. This is a cheeky pick on my end, right? Sunderland's been down in League One for a couple of years. They're a big club, stadium of light, one club town, right? We all watch the show, but they're on this list for a different reason. You have all those things going on. You have the whole motivation to try and get them back to the top. It's not easy. Expectations are high. And now your hated rival just got bought by the richest owners in the sport. So the greatest challenge in this save would be getting Sunderland back to a point where they can compete with that club that is yet to be named, but surely will be later in this list. Their greatest rivals that are now the richest club in the sport. That's a bitter pill to swallow when you're down in League One. Why don't you help them out? Just, you know, up a little bit. Maybe just the championship, something. Where is Lee Cattermole when you need him? God, Aidan McGeady is still on the team. I remember when you were actually supposed to know that guy's name. Number 4. This is just going for the biggest possible challenge you can, really. Derby County. Because if you haven't heard, tragedy has befallen Derby County, a club whose badge I always thought was entertaining, and I hope they get to the Premier League someday. But now, as you can see, they've been fined 12 points for going into administration. So one, if you can dodge relegation in the first place with absolutely no budget to work with, you're a local hero. You will also be loosing Wayne Rooney on the world, which means we'll get a lot more the world really just needs more of that. But Derby County is a traditional power club. That's just for you to latch yourself onto the history. But if I'm being perfectly honest, the majority of teams in the championship consider themselves a big club and a power club at some point. So what you're trying to accomplish is surviving the administration, returning the club to a healthy state, and eventually getting into the Premier League, the Premiership, and maybe taking Derby all the way to glory. Just in case you hadn't heard about it, figured I'd point it out to you. That's the obvious fun one. My condolences to the fans, though. That just sucks. Which brings us to number 3, which is Salford City. Salford City, owned by the class of 92 from Manchester United. Yes, but they are also an unbelievable mercurial riser from the 8th division as recently as 2014-15 all the way to League 2, where they have hit the brakes, finished 11th and 8th the last 2 seasons. This is the longest they've spent in any division since the 8th division. This is the sort of stuff that you would do while you're playing Football Manager, which of course I'm suggesting you do, but I'm suggesting you take over a club that in real life seems to be playing Football Manager. Your managing director is Gary Neville. Your director is Paul Scholes. You'll be working in the same room as them, virtually at least, which is still cooler than anything I've ever done. Not for long. Pretty soon I'll be trying to save Chris MD's free kicks. At least I think I can do a better job than Ollie.
Sorry.
Ollie and I are going to play Total War Warhammer, though, at some point, but that's my nerd side, and that normally doesn't go here. Without downloading a database, you can take over a mercurial club and try and get them all the way up to the Premier League from essentially the 8th division, latch yourself onto a cool story, and maybe get into a documentary yourself. Go for it. And it really feels like I'm fanboying for documentaries. It's almost like they make documentaries that do well on interesting teams. Only there was one about Real Sociedad. Number 2 is a team that could use all the help they could get. So hopefully you've watched every single tutorial that's ever been made. Norwich, a team I find fascinating because they had to know they were coming right back up eventually. They're the kings of the championship, and they're the bridesmaid of the Premier League. Literally never the bride. They can literally never stay here. But to be perfectly honest, they've signed American darling center forward Josh Sargent from an already relegated Bundesliga side, so what could possibly go wrong? Actually, though, they have good young talent that's not Josh Sargent, even though love my boy Joshy and I wish him a wonderful career. He's still young. They have Max Aarons, Christos Solis, who has been on the Football Manager radar for a couple of years, but he's coming good. They have the man with maybe the best hair in the league, Todd Cantwell, and one of those players that's been almost good for a while, Adam Ida, who's also a striker. Then of course there's the Pookie party, Timu Pookie, right? You gotta help this team. I'm sorry. The Canaries is a great nickname. Their kits are absolute garbage, but they're great. Like, they embrace them. They're from a part of the country in England that's not necessarily involved. They're not normally involved in this sort of thing, right? They're on the Great Yarmouth. Look at me. I have learned so much since I started doing this, right? This isn't just another team in London. They're out there. They're in the sticks, right? This is a team that just can't seem to figure out how to keep themselves up for the life of themselves, and they're right now in real life pulling off one of the worst seasons in the history of the Premier League. Help them. And it's a very challenging one next to the save that you probably know is coming as the best save to play in the English leagues, and that would be Newcastle. Duh, obviously. Not only if you're a lover of accuracy does this make sense for you, because the manager just got fired, right? They have not hired a new one as the recording of this video, even though I'm hearing Eddie Howe whispers, which... interesting. Try and build a club that's worthy of the amount of money that it has. It's a sugar daddy takeover that you always dream of, except it's happened in real life. You don't have to edit the game at all and simulate that sugar whoever takeover, right? The sugar's already here. It's in the cup. Just pour it in the coffee. Except I don't drink coffee. I'm actually not making that up. I feel like there was a day where everybody started drinking it, and I didn't go to school on that day or something, and I missed the whole introduction, and I've been really uncomfortable about it ever since because it tastes bad. Why does everybody drink it? Why are you okay? But the point is, Newcastle is is the best save. Then I'm removing, objectionable morality from the question because this is a video game. You can play this video game however you see fit. I'll see you on another video, or I'll see you on a stream or the live channel or a podcast. I talk a lot. Do I need to like tea with honey or